Hi all, this is Skate, and today we are going to look at the Type 59. She is a classic premium tank, classic medium tank, and it pretty much for me sums up everything when it comes to the term medium tank. It's got a bit of everything. It's got a fairly good gun, it's got fairly good armour, and it has fairly good mobility. It's not top of its class in any of them, and it's not bottom of its class. The problem with the Type 59 is called the T-54 prototype. And when the T-54 prototype hit the game, it almost power creeped this tank. It's got better armour, it's got better DPM, it's got better gun dispersion, and it has a better aim time. Better rate of fire, better hit points. Did I mention better armour? But the T-54 prototype, it genuinely just seemed to outshine this tank. Where it doesn't outshine is its mobility. This thing also has 181mm of penetration in comparison to the 175, to which you would get on the prototype. Personally, I think I prefer the Type 59 to the T-54 prototype, especially if I want to play a tier 8 medium tank, because the T-54 prototype steps out of the medium tank category and starts to fall into the heavy tank category. Now the prototype is a great tank, and statistically, on paper, it's a lot better tank than the T-59. But personally, like I said, if I wanted a tier 8 medium playstyle, I'm going to go jump in my Type 59 first. So, quick look at the garage setup, then we'll jump into some clips, some gameplay, and we can carry on talking about the tanks. Personally, I like the gun rammer just to increase the DPM ever so slightly. I don't think the 181's that bad, but if you want to buff your 181mm of penetration to 190, obviously fit your calibrated shells. The other thing then is straight into the vitality. You really want the protected modules. This tank has a tendency to be ammo racked, and based on that, you want to protect the modules in any way you can. Coated optics, obviously because it's a medium. Gun lane drive to help the gun. Enhanced armor because, well, troll armor then. Improved control because it does need a slight increase in track traverse. And vertical stabilizers are a must. Follow that up. Well, you can follow it up with the enhanced tracks and consumable delivery system. Personally, I don't think it needs it, or I don't bother. Ammo, I carry 22 AP, 8 APCR and 4 HE. The APCR is a little unnecessary, but you can need it sometimes when you're against tier 9s. My provisions, you can see on the moment, are pretty much my standard setup, and then consumables, again, my standard setup in regards to 2 repair kits and the adrenaline. So before we jump into the games, I just quickly want to show this one clip. Now, I'm about to be spotted. I have full hit points, and I don't notice a big caliber ISU 152 right next to me, who ammo racks me from full health. Now some of you are already going, well, it's an ISU, what do you expect, Skate? The thing is, it's not uncommon for your ammo rack to be damaged in this tank, and it's not uncommon for your driver to be taken out as well. So it's 2 things to keep in mind when you're using repair kits, is that there's a high chance your driver or your ammo rack is going to get knocked out. It's important you try and avoid using your multi-purpose restoration pack accidentally to repair a track. I personally do it way too often accidentally. You click one while you're rushing, or you click one because you're in a sticky situation, and you click the wrong one. But put them in an order, or do something which you can try and encourage yourself not to. Because the last thing you want to do is repair a track and then have your ammo rack or your driver taken out. So there's a couple of negatives in terms of this tank. The nice part about it is it does have 7 degrees of gun depression, which when you've got 100mm of frontal armor sloped like that, and you have a very good strong turret, you can put this tank in good situations to make it very strong frontally. Now the Proto obviously has more frontal armor, well, more hull frontal armor. It's actually got less on the turret, but it has 5 degrees of gun depression, which means this tank is just a little bit more maneuverable. It's more versatile because you can put it places where you can't put the other tank. And you can get round places in this tank a lot quicker because it's a lot more mobile. It also has 80mm of side armor. Now this is where it gets a bit of a gamble when it comes to side scraping. Over scrape it, and well, you're going to get ammo racked or damage your ammo rack. Do it just right, and you'll get a lot of bounces off the side of your tank. Now this game, I don't actually get shot at a lot, but I wanted to include this because I think it gives a very, very good example of what sort of angle to try and use the tank at. This place I'm here is golden for the Type 59 because you'll see every time I'm reversing back, granted I screwed up my shot, but every time I'm reversing back I'm going down the ridge, I'm angled, and I'm using my gun depression. That makes this tank very, very strong. So this replay may not give a good example of the tank's armor being used, but hopefully this shows exactly how I try to use it in pretty much every single game. But spots like that, if there's nobody in the bushes on your left, are literally just golden. You're using the gun depression, there's not much they can shoot at because you're angled, it's just perfect. The other thing with the Type 59, as I mentioned, it does have 100mm of sloped armor on the hull, which means you always want to stick your frontal armor to everybody because you don't want to give people the sides or rear of your tank, unless obviously you're well angled on the side. But I still try to hide the hull as best I can, and when I am brawling you'll notice I'll do everything I can to get as close as I can to the tank because it gives them nothing but the hull to shoot at. Sadly, if it's a tank with good gun depression, they can just point down at your hull, which is why you want to be wiggling in and out to try and avoid that. Realistically, they have good gun depression, they're going to penetrate. But even though I barely got shot at in that match, like I said, I think it gives a good example of the angling. And we still did 3,392 damage, and we made over 100,000 credits. You can't complain about 100,000 credits plus. Another thing I think worth noting about that game is the fact that when you are angling, if you looked at the J-Panther 2 and the IS-8, they looked at us, looked at our position, looked at the likelihood of penetrating us, and just looked at somebody else to shoot at. You'd be surprised how many comments I see with people saying, well, you only had a good game because no one shot at you. Well, if you're making yourself a difficult target to be shot at, you can't be shot at. Or they give up trying to shoot at you, or look at you and see someone else next to you out in the open, and prefer to shoot that person because they know they'll pen. So from that perspective, even when you're not being shot, try and put your tank in situations where you are difficult to shoot, either by popping into cover after you're shot and not sitting in the open, or angling yourself correctly still. It genuinely does make one hell of a difference. I mean, think about it yourself. If there's two tanks in front of you, one is angled up, using gun depression, and you can just see sloped frontal armor, a turret, and well-angled side armor, and there was a tank a couple of meters to the left or right with nothing to cover it. Which tank are you going to shoot at? I know which I would shoot at. And that applies to every tank, really. It's trying to maximize the chances of not being shot at. I think that makes a huge difference. Some people are going, well, yeah, duh. It's glaringly obvious in some aspects, but in other aspects you don't think about it. So I do think it's something which applies to all tanks. In terms of using that in a Type 59, I would genuinely say always try and hide the hull. And if you can't hide the hull, always try and make sure you're angling it or you're in a position to get straight into cover. Which falls in one of three ways as far as I'm concerned. Number one, hide the hull as best you can and just pop your turret around corners. Number two, side scrape it out. And if those two are an option or you need a very, very quick snapshot, just poke the front of the tank out at an angle and try and keep the inner track wheel just inside, because there's only frontally sloped armor to shoot at there. That's obviously the last option because there's more likelihood of penetrating shots on you. But if you try and follow those in that order, either people aren't going to be interested in shooting at you compared, or, well, when they do, there's a much, much higher chance of them bouncing, especially in this tank. Now, the other thing to look at is the gun. I like the gun on this thing. It's got some drawbacks, like its DPM, or the fact that shooting on the move isn't always the most accurate. But wait until it aims, especially when you have a gun lane driving V-stabs, isn't that bad. I mean, the aim time, by the time I've reloaded and popped out looking, waiting, I'm not out for that long while I'm waiting for it to fully aim in. But the DPM isn't the greatest. There's many tanks at this tier with a much better rate of fire and a much better DPM. But this, in my opinion, genuinely is just the perfect balance of medium tank. You've got fairly good mobility, as I mentioned at the start. You've got fairly good armor. When you manipulate the armor, it's fantastic. And the gun, when you think about it, when you have those things as well in this package, it's not all that bad at all. I can certainly live with that. I have no complaints with this tank. I think it's a fantastic tank. On that note, by the way, before anyone asks, I don't know if this is going back on sale. It's Wargaming, so I have no doubt it will go back at some point. I wouldn't worry. I don't know when, I'm afraid. But this is a tank which I have been asked for numerous times to chuck up a video on. Now this one we did 2,474 damage. I flicked through that stupidly quick, I apologise. We got 4 kills and 63,000 credits, which again, I'm very happy with the amount of credits this thing makes. It doesn't make as much as the Lerva, or the T-34, or the Super Persian. All on average anyway. But I love the playstyle of this tank. It's so similar to things like a T-62A. The difference is being, obviously you have a poor rate of fire on this thing. But the armor at its tier holds up very, very well. Now I just need to explain myself here, because I'm reversing my tank back, showing my big squishy butt. However, at this time I assumed the T-49 and the other medium tanks they had up here, or light tanks, would have been showing that way. So I was hoping to spot something, sticking my butt out, just having a look, while keeping or maintaining my frontal armor to where I think they would have appeared. However, as soon as I noticed them, I turned around straight away. Rather than chasing that tank left though, I am going to go help with this Tiger, because he is separated from the rest of his reds, which means I can come around and help, and we can pick him off quite easily by himself. And you'll see I've gone straight to parking my tank on the side of his tank. Although he's not shooting at me, parking right next to him or very close gives him very little chance of penetrating should he turn to shoot at us. And obviously it helped our Panther 2, who was calling for help at the same time. Now you'll notice when I'm sticking out the corner to try and look, I was trying to keep my inner track wheel in as much as possible. I just wanted to poke east for a look, and then as soon as nothing appeared, I'm off trying to hunt this T-49. And this is the reason I don't pack a lot of HE in this tank. For a Borsig, fantastic. For something like this, you can't always guarantee that you're going to get good, high penetrating hits with the HE. Where this tank is fun compared to other lights and mediums, I love ramming things in this. And I'm trying to bait this Tiger to come around the corner, but he is now preoccupied, I think, with someone else shooting at him, so he does back off. So what I'm going to do is check to see if I can see that J-Panther. He's behind the building, which means he can't shoot at me. I'm going to side scrape up and bounce his shot and pretty much use my ability of side scraping to pick on this Tiger. Which is when I realised my team has fallen over on the right hand side. There's only 2 of us medium tanks left versus 4 enemy tanks. And at that point in time, that's why I made the decision of moving out this far. If I stayed where I was trying to pick on that Tiger, all of those reds would have flanked around my right hand side and I would be left very, very vulnerable. Which is why I've come all the way around here, and in theory all tanks are now on my right hand side. Except I know all of them are on my right hand side, rather than them appear there while I'm distracted with the Tiger trying to side scrape it. In the time I've explained this though, we have taken out a T-49, and that Tiger has taken out our last friendly, which leaves us in a 1-on-3. Rather than go for cover, you'll notice I tried to side scrape using long range of that building against that Tiger, and we did manage to bounce his shot. Which is when the J-Panther comes to have a go then. Tiger's gone back into cover. Again, I'm going to try and side scrape using the building at distance to try and come out and get a quick sneaky shot on the J-Panther. Now this is where I make the decision of I can afford to take a hit. So I've taken a hit off those while trying to get around the J-Panther, and now I'm going to use the J-Panther to protect me from the T-20 over there. He can't shoot at me while I'm hidden behind that J-Panther, and again you'll notice I'm constantly moving, constantly trying to angle up against these tanks. As soon as I'm reloaded, I'll pop back into cover. Just dodged his shot, and that means I'm clean to come straight out and finish him as well. And I genuinely think if I didn't relocate, those tanks would have all come to me at the same time, and I wouldn't have won that one. But we did win, which gives us a nice Kolobanov's medal. We got 6 kills in total, which when the loading screen comes up means, come on, there we go, 3,591 damage, mastery badge, and 106,000 credits. You can't complain about that much credits in one game. I love getting birthdays on these tanks. My last Lerva birthday, I made 250,000 credits in one battle. I'll throw that up actually, I think that'll be an interesting video. Irrelevant though, Type 59. If you ask me the question of Type 59 or T-54 prototype, the answer is going to be, they're different. They're both tier 8 medium tanks, but they're different. This to me is the pinnacle of the word medium tank. It's a proper thoroughbred. If you're looking for medium tank playstyle, then you want the Type 59. If you're looking for more of the heavy tank playstyle, you want the T-54 Proto. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Obviously, this does kind of follow up on yesterday's Type 59 video, which I still think is absolutely hysterical how that game happened. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. If not, thank you all for watching, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.